So in this video I will talk about two tools. One is the sequencer and the other one will be the scanner. Let's start with the sequencer. The sequencer is essentially a tool to do mathematical analysis of entropy. What you want to find out here is how random something is. By something I mean usually cookies or session tokens or anything what you usually use in your application as a random string. What the sequencer can do for you is to send requests automatically to collect these tokens and then run a bunch of mathematical analysis on them to find out how good the entropy was to generate these random values, and by that show you how random they really are. These tests could be good to you when you have like a suspicion that the cookies what you're receiving are not really random. So they do change, they look random, but you have a feeling that they probably aren't, and you want to test them, because if they are not random, then you might find a way to forecast them and generate session cookies for yourself, and that's awesome if you can do that. So let's quickly see how this really works. So this is the main sequencer page, and what you want to do is find a request which you can test here, and with that you can collect these tokens what you want to test. So we're gonna go back to the web code. So I'm gonna restart the browser to have a clean environment. And reload this page. Guest. And now let's see here in Burp what happened exactly. So you see when we send the first request, we don't have any cookies. And in response, we don't get anything. But in the second request, this is the authorization. So we add the authorization code or the username password. And then in the response, we get a set cookie parameter, set cookie header, and what we want to use the sequencer for is to figure out whether this value here is random or not. And for that, we have to send this request as many times as we can to have a list of these session cookies to be able to run the sequencer on them. So we say send to sequencer, and then we have this one request here in the sequencer. So the value what you want to test is going to be in the response. So you have various options how you want to choose what part of the response you want to test. So you can choose here that it's going to be a cookie. So Burp is looking for this set cookie header and allows you to choose one of these cookies. Since we have only one cookie, we can only choose the JSession ID there. Also, you can use form fields, but that's also not that interesting now. That could be interesting for you if you're if there's a cross-site request forgery protections, because usually a good way to protect against cross-site scripting forgery is to put a random cross-site scripting token in every form as a hidden parameter or a hidden input. And here with the form field, you could choose that input and test whether these cross-site request forgery tokens are always new and always random. Because if they are not random, then you could be able to generate and then like fake this or bypass the cross-site request forgery protection. And the custom location I show you, that's actually a pretty cool tool. You have the response here, and you can either put here like regular expressions or things like that. But what I really like is that you can come here and select what you want. And as you can see, Burp automatically generated these expressions for you to mark for you which part you want to look at. This is really useful when the token is something which you cannot really define well. So like not a cookie or not an input field. It's just like one part of the web page, the response what you get. And with this tool, you can very well define what you want to look for, and it's pretty easy. So there is not too, so you don't really have to write real regular expressions by yourself. So, but we can just use here the cookie now. There is some speed options here, which I'm not going to change now. I'm going to just say start live capture. And then as you can see, here are the requests sent and the tokens collected. You can use this auto analyze, which will do this mathematical analysis after like every 100 tokens or something like that. And then you can see how it changes in time, or you can just stop it and wait for some time. I usually wait for like 1,000 tokens at least. Sometimes the application is really slow and then it's not possible, but the more tokens you have, the better it is, because then the analysis will be more accurate. As you can see, it starts to slow down, so actually I will stop it. Yes, and do an analyze now. I'm not gonna explain you everything on this page, because usually what I'm looking at is this line here, which is the overall quality of randomness is excellent. You could look through all these data, all the diagrams. Burp really does quite a few tests, which might be interesting for you if you want to know a lot about randomness and how you analyze randomness. But I usually don't do that. For me, this is fine that it says excellent, and right now it's a JSON ID, so it's something basic from Tomcat. So actually, I could have said that I trust the JSON ID that is good. But if that's something what you don't know the token, then it's always worth to check it with this tool. What happens when it says it's bad? Then I suggest you to try to figure out what's the problem with it. Try to figure out whether it's a hash or it's put together from different hashes or different parts, whether it's base 64. You can try a few things there. You can say like copy tokens and then put it in text editor or something. And sometimes even if you put it in a text editor, you will see that the first 5 characters or something are always the same. It's like a good hint that something separate and the rest is always changing. That might mean that, for instance, the first part is like some kind of encoded way of your username, and the rest might be random, but that could be also something other, like at the time or something like that encoded. And then you could try to crack the tokens and try to generate these tokens yourself. if you would be able to do that, like to do it for a session token, that would be awesome, because you could then just, instead of logging in, you could just create a session token for yourself and then use it to go to the server. That would be really good. And yeah, that's about it about the sequencer. It's a really nice tool. It's good for quick tests, but it's something really simple. It tests randomness. That's all. Now the other is the scanner, which, as you can see here, it's not part of the free edition. But the reason I'm talking about it is because I think if you want to do pen testing professionally, then you will get to the point really quickly when you want to buy Burp Suite, because it's not an expensive thing. So basically, your first pen test will pay for it. So I will just introduce it quickly. This is a really general vulnerability scanner. If you use other vulnerability scanners, then you know the concept. The good thing is that it's built into Burp, so you don't have to start new tools. You can just use it here in Burp, and it's pretty quick. It scans the requests and responses what goes through the proxy. That's the passive scanning. So like it will tell you if it saw something interesting for you. Or you can do active scanning, either together with the spidering, or as here on the picture, you can send requests to the scanner to do an active scan on them. And that means that the scanner will start to fuzz the different parameters in the request and look at the responses and like try to, actually it's sometimes pretty good. It's good to find simpler cross-site scripting, like reflected cross-site scripting. It usually works out. It can also find you SQL injections. So for instance, when I'm looking for a SQL injection, I always send a request to the scanner, even if I start working with the request in the intruder or in the repeater manually. But I will always say to do an active scan, and if you're lucky, then the scanner will find you the problem, and then it saves time. And if you're not lucky, then you just had your shot, and then you try to find the problem manually. It also can find you like this uh, low-hanging fruits, which are um, not really serious vulnerabilities, but you have to put them in the report, like SSL problems or information leakage, like the session token is in the URL, or the password is in the response, and things like that, which are, for us pen testers, it's not really interesting, but at the end of the day you have to put it in the report because it's still a security problem. And so what I do, I have all my findings at the end of a penetration test, but I always come back to the scanner and check it whether there is something which I might have seen but wasn't that interesting that I went into it, but I still need to put it in the report. So that's about the scanner. If you decide to purchase Burp Suite, then give it a try. It can be a good help for you, and it's not difficult to use. All right. See you later.